Secure some price for Wednesday, April 9th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. In this program, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner, Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. And just when you're ready to count the Vancouver Canucks out,
they're spreaders of joy. That's all they are at this point.
The impossible has happened.
Yes.
To quote a famous sports call.
Canucks fans deserve that. It was really fun for those that remained with the game. I saw lots of notes from many of you that, unlike me, who was watching and wrote them off too soon, many wrote them off too soon and stopped watching the game. And the result was you missed a heck of a night.
Is that the lesson that you never leave early as a fan?
I didn't think they were playing that bad. When they were down 3-0, I was like, you know what? They're down 3-0.
Their third period was very good.
No, but even to that point, DeSmith was very good. And I was like, you know what? They've got a couple of really point-blank shots on DeSmith. He's just good tonight. And they're down 3-0.
And the effort continues to warm your heart.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of Vancouver Canucks teams playing out the string, doing the death march, so to speak, who were not able to manage this sort of night-to-night effort and work rate. We've talked about the last couple of days on the show. Is this a commentary on how they feel about their head coach and the coaching staff, that they're not yet willing to quit, even with playoff odds measured in the decimal points?
Yeah.
And they're still measured in the decimal points. More on that in a moment. First, the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Should the Canucks extend Pius Suter if he costs $5 million a year on a 4 or 5 year deal? Here's where we're coming from. Earlier in the season, the good folk at AFP Analytics put out a chart, an expectation of what they think unrestricted free agents will be able to command and sign for in the summer, based on that player's production to date, also based on a rising salary cap. And so we had been, and this has not been updated recently. It was updated a little while ago, but not terribly recently. And so we had been going on the notion that Pius Suter will come in at about 4x4. 4x3.9 to be exact is the AFP,
which still irks some projection people at that price.
Mm-hmm. But let's remember the cap's going up $7 million. Everybody, that's the biggest jump we've seen in more than a half decade, right? So you're going to have to reimagine what a $4 million player, what a $5 million player is in the National Hockey League. Suter in 8 games, masquerading as a number one centerman for the Vancouver Canucks, and nobody here is saying he's a number one centerman, but 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in those 8 games. And that was building on an already strong season playing down lineup for the Vancouver Canucks. And it's funny because he did an interview with Ian McIntyre late last week, kind of flew under the radar, but he mentioned there had been very little contact with his agent so far this season. He talked about how he set a goal to get to 20 goals this season and has not only reached that, but blown past it now. And that he does want to stay here in Vancouver. I voted yes. I've been a big Pius Suter fan since he got here. I said at the outset of the season, I thought this was a player capable of a breakout. Don't love the skating, don't love the face-off percentage, but he's a guy who can play center or wing. He's a guy who can score goals. He is not without some creativity on the offensive side, setting teammates up. There's a high hockey IQ here. He's been a primary penalty killer for what has been an outstanding Vancouver Canucks PK unit, last night notwithstanding. And he's a guy who you can play in the final minutes protecting the lead, not to mention on the second power play unit when you have your full lineup available. So I wouldn't love 5x5 on a player of this profile and age, and he turns 29 next month, but you're still getting out at 34 years old.
Well, that's if you go deep in the playoffs. You might be getting out actually at the physical age of 33. A season at 29, a season at 30.
Yeah.
A season of 1, 2, 3. So you don't even have to see him 34 unless you're going to the Cup final that year.
Right. So I'm a yes. Can't believe we're here, but he's earned it. I'm yes.
The analytics guys will tell you 50-point paces, believe it or not, are second-line centers. They are. And that's where he's at right now. With a strong finish, he is a 50-point player this year. And that's not playing in the top 6 the entire season. It's a great insurance plan. It's a year. At the 4-year, we said 4 or 5 in the question. So vis-a-vis the poll question, it's a yes. Because if it's a 4-year, it's emphatically yes for me. At 5 years, yeah, I wince a little bit, but I probably, given the market that we see in front of us, given the narrow paths that we've said that the Canucks have to finding a top 6 center, that is a wonderful insurance policy. And again, all of the Canucks perspectives for next year all hinge on Elias Pettersson being a true top-line center.
If he's coming back, yes.
So if he's coming back and he performs like a top-line center, and you can't find any other center help, but Pius Suter is there as your second-line center, it's not awesome. But as we have seen, it's clearly not the end of the world either.
That's a great point, Blake, and I'll add to it. You have a huge question mark about Filip Chytil.
Yeah.
So your center depth is a major cause for concern. We've talked about the UFAs available. It's a thin market there. It almost always is for a top 2 center. We have talked about the trade market. It's a thin market there. It almost always is for a first or second center. And, offer sheets are shot in they're Hail Marys. So when I look at what they have, what they need, what's available, the scarcity of this position, I think you've got to bite the bullet, particularly since you know far more about Pius Suter and how he fits with your style of play and with your existing group than you know about any foreign player that you're going to bring in from another organization. There's an axiom in hockey. When you're making a trade, you better, you better know what you're sending out, because we can guarantee you'll know less about what you're bringing in. Are you surprised? I got to say, I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't treated him as more of a priority to date. I would have thought there would have been more activity around Suter heading up to the trade deadline, knowing how Patrick Allvin operates, and that is that the trade deadline is a deadline for UFAs. You either want them re-signed or you want them traded. Now, that changed this year, and that changed this year because the owner didn't want any step backs, wanted the playoff push.
But there was a small hint when they traded Carson Soucy that, again, if you have no use for that player, yes, you can trade him. They did so with Soucy. But clearly they have use for Suter.
Yep. But here's the thing.
It's a little late for sure. But
I think because there's been very little activity, by Suter's admission, and also because you extended newcomers like Marcus Pettersson, Drew O'Connor, and Kevin Lankinen, I think that's put you in a situation where you're going to have to pay handsomely to get him extended before July 1st. Because from his corner, from his camp, we've prioritized all these other guys, haven't had a lot of discussion. Rick Tocchetto, of course, famously, when he scored his 20th, said that's the cha-ching goal. Was quoted in that IMAC article. When we sit at the round table as coaches and you look at what type of players you want, he's obviously a guy that I've really liked. He's really helped me in a tough situation. When guys went down and stuff like that, he's been always a constant for me. You always root for a guy like that. So praise from the head coach, and rightfully so. in what has been a most difficult season for the Vancouver Canucks, Pius Suter has been a shining light. Also a shining light. How about $2,500 off a new or pre-owned vehicle at Surrey Mitsubishi?
Oh, right.
5
Speaking
goals.
of cha-ching.
We maxed it out here, everybody. $500 per goal. Maxed it out at 5 goals.
My goodness.
Get yourself to the dealership, mention Sekeres Price, and get your huge discount on a new or pre-owned vehicle from Surrey Mitsubishi. Score more, save more. More value, more savings. Bring them any offer. Surrey Mitsubishi will beat it. Visit 13820 104th Avenue. That is 13820 104th Avenue. Get there.
The Canucks have been
Before
scoring goals.
the next game day to take advantage of this $2,500 savings.
Daniel and Mitsubishi is going to rue the day that he decided on this, because this is the second time in 3 games that the Canucks have scored 5 goals. Incidentally, 8 teams on the out-of-town scoreboard scored at least 5 goals last night.
Please let that be the case in a couple weeks when the Stanley Cup
Whatever
playoffs
happened to everybody getting ready for the playoffs and tightening things up?
It's true. Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. A comeback for the Annals, and they're alive. They're alive. First team in NHL history to score 3 times in the final minute and come back to win 6-5 in overtime against the Dallas Stars. Down 3-0 heading into the third period. Down 5-2 with 2:21 remaining. Some were tweeting their mathematical demise.
Some did do that.
But there was still some math left, even after Michael Granlund scored to regain that 3-goal advantage into the empty net, ostensibly to seal the win for the home team Dallas Stars. But Ratu with a minute left, Suter with 30 seconds left, Suter again with 7 seconds left, forces overtime, where the Canucks actually blow a rare power play opportunity, but still wind up winning on a Kiefer Sherwood goal. Great work by Connor Garland against Matt Dumba to set that goal up.
It was an absolute revelation, honestly, at the end of that game. So much fun. Kudos to Garland on the 5-4 goal as well, where he fakes, goes way down low, and then tucks it back up to the top of the crease for Suter there. The patience there, just unbelievable. And again, I thought DeSmith was lights out to start this game. First 40 minutes, I thought DeSmith was maybe going to have one of those nights where he was just going to stone his old team. And for them to end up with 5 goals on him in regulation, did not see that coming whatsoever. Just unbelievable stick-to-itiveness. They don't even rely on Hughes that much on the score sheet. He's out there he's omnipresent. Let's face it. He's never leaving the ice in these stages of the game. Played 3:44 of overtime. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, let's hear from Kiefer Sherwood. He pots his team-leading 5th game-winning goal of the season, and he's asked about all these recent late comebacks from the Canucks.
It's not the first time. It's crazy, the resilience. I don't know. I've never been part of a team that's just has so many crazy comebacks and so much roller coaster come from behinds. It says a lot about the group and the quality of players. When adversity hits, we just dig in, and guys are able to execute and make stuff happen.
Now, they've been making a habit of buzzer beaters. Suter last night, Besser in St. Louis, Garland in New Jersey. It's the 4th time this year they've been a part of a 3-goal comeback in the third. All of them were losses until last night. You remember Calgary, opening night, Seattle around Christmas, Columbus a couple weeks ago. But these cardiac Canucks, 54 seconds. It is the second fastest 3-goal binge in franchise history. 6 seconds off the 48-second record, which happened in 1993 against the LA Kings. So 32 years ago. And it's the 5th time, speaking of our buddy Daniel at Surrey Mitsubishi, because this campaign's been on for a while. It's the 5th time in the past 13 outings, they've scored 6 goals in a game. Chicago, Winnipeg, Columbus, Anaheim, now Dallas.
One guy that's not going to get a ton of glow from last night, but he got 2 more points, is Philip Roenick.
I'm going to talk about him in a sec.
14 points in his last 18 games.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. Canucks remain mathematically alive in the playoff chase, but they still cannot afford a loss or a Minnesota win. The Wild play host to the San Jose Sharks tonight. They are getting both Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek back from injury. And there will be a lot of emotion in the building and on the Minnesota side of the ledger as executive Ray Shero, a former general manager in the NHL, passed away today at the age of 62. A very difficult week for the NHL with the loss of Greg Millen, far too young at 67, and now Ray Shero at 62. A quiet battle with cancer. Shero preceded Jim Rutherford in Pittsburgh, as a matter of fact, and really was the chief architect, laid the foundation for those two. He didn't draft Crosby or Malkin, but laid the foundation for those 2 Stanley Cup winning teams, the back-to-back Penguins Stanley Cup winning teams. First time that had been done in the salary cap era.
The Wild have to play not only with that in the back of their minds, but they have to play for their playoff futures. Because if the Flames win tonight and the Wild lose to the Sharks, you can make the argument the Flames will be in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Because those two tangle the night before the Wild play in Vancouver.
Yes.
Like, it's going to be a hell weekend for the Minnesota Wild if they lose tonight.
Yes.
Now, it's against the Sharks. They probably shouldn't.
Calgary and
Oh, my
Anaheim
goodness.
tonight, and maybe former Vancouver Canuck fan and Lower Mainlander Macklin Celebrini does his
maybe.
childhood team a solid here this evening. Look, all you're asking for right now, if you're the Canucks, is for that Saturday home game against Minnesota to be playoff relevant. Meaning, Sharks win tonight, Canucks win in Denver tomorrow.
What do you hope for on Friday?
Calgary beats Minnesota.
I guess so. In regulation.
Yeah, can't have a 3-point game there. As for the scoring, Connor Garland leads all scorers with 3 assists. He's now up to 48 points. We were wondering, can he get to 50 points on the season? Was going to need a big finish. Well on his way there. Still 1 goal away from 20 for Connor Garland. Suter with the 2 goals is up to 24. He's now 1 off the team lead, which is shared after Jake DeBrusk scores to tie Besser at 25. Hughes with a pair of assists, more on him in a second, but 407 career points. He's now 2 shy of Alexander Edler's franchise record for a defenseman. One suspects he will break that here, and one suspects he will break that in one of the 3 home games, right, in the season.
And still an outside shot. If he gets red hot, I'm not going to say he can't get to 80 points,
right,
which would be unbelievable given the season and the games missed.
You mentioned Roenick's strong game, which is really now making his point total look good. He's at 32. He's actually 3 away from tying his good buddy JT Miller in Canucks scoring.
Well, and also he's missed all those games. Like he's projecting to pretty close to what he did last year.
Ratu with a goal and an assist. He's up to 7 goals and 10 points this season. 5 goals in his past 7 games. He has 9 goals in 44 career NHL games as a young player playing down lineup. And you look at some of the underlyings last night, expected goals for 69%, high danger chances 4-1 when Ratu is on the ice. So continues his strong play and making a bid to be a Canucks centerman next season. Kiefer Sherwood's goal, he's got 18, he's chasing 20. And Victor Mancini and Marcus Pettersson also dot the score sheet, 7 points from the defense last night. Minus Tyler Myers.
I know he's going to have some breaks put on him because he he's probably still a little unsure of when to press on the gas pedal and when not to, but Mancini went on 2 more rushes down that right side late in the game. Hughes and him are out there, and you can see him give a wink to Quinn Hughes of, I'm going. And Hughes looks up the boards, then feeds to Mancini, and Mancini does these power forward rushes down the right. He's turned the corner every single time. He's got sneaky wheels, Matt. I wonder where it's going with this kid. I'm very intrigued.
Well, it's everybody said at the time of the trade, he is not without feet and hands for such a big guy and a right shooter. No
worst Corsi of the night last night, but there's still raw skills there that I'm interested in.
And whether it's Adam Foote or somebody else, you would like to think a good NHL coaching staff and defense coach can get more out of this young man.
Yeah.
Here's speaking of coaches. Here's Rick Tocchet on the lasting impact of a win like that.
It's huge for development. You're sitting on the bench as a young kid. It's 5-2. Whatever time was left, and looks like we're going to lose. And then we score a goal, and you see the fight. The diagrams. Hey, we're doing this. Like, there wasn't guys hanging their head. I think it's huge for the young guys. And to be honest with you, they were up on the bench and they were alive. They were cheering the guys on who were on the ice. So, that's big for development.
It's proof of concept.
Yeah.
You've done it. Next time you're in the situation, you're still believing.
My only question there, Coach, is a little odd that he framed it in terms of an example for young guys going forward, huge for development, and not we're still in the playoff race. There's a resignation there that I didn't love. Particularly since, Rick, that's why you pull the goaltender. You remember the Winnipeg game a week or so ago where they just sort of capitulated? Let's spend a moment on Quinn Hughes because we're running out of opportunities to sing Quinn Hughes' praises. Only 4 games left.
Did he play last night?
Yeah. All 3 minutes and 44 seconds of the overtime to get to 31-28, just 10 seconds off the career high he set in Jersey a couple of weeks ago. 5th time over 30 minutes this season, 3rd in the past 10 games. And Coach Tocchet was singling him out after the fact.
I thought our captain was really good tonight. I thought Quinn was so good. Played a lot of, I don't even know what he played, but I thought he controlled a lot of the play. He took it upon himself to will the game, and I think everybody kind of jumped on his back.
In the last 8 games, he's been a -9. Again, imperfect stat, but when they get to be big numbers, you see a trend. And he'd been forcing things. He'd been struggling to make it work. He was better overall. I didn't see him cough up the puck as much last night, and in the big moments, he rose to the occasion as well. So he ends up +2 on the night, 2 points. And with 2 more points, he equals his 2nd best season ever. And that's with all these games missed.
Yeah. And then he doesn't get on the score sheet last night. Oh, actually, he did. Sorry, my bad. He had an assist, Linus Karlsson. Wyatt Arnott, our buddy, the stanchion from Canucks Army. It's a small thing, but you can really tell Linus Karlsson is finding his confidence at the NHL level. He's been good at attempting power moves with the puck and has been at protecting it as well. Really enjoyed his last stint with this team. He plays 10 minutes and 40 seconds. He has 2 shots. He has 6 shot attempts in this hockey game. Karlsson, you mentioned Mancini. Sasson back last weekend. Ratu. Boy, you feel better and better about this young fleet of Abbotsford Canucks who have had to come up and be NHLers because of the injuries the Canucks are dealing with. It bodes very well for the future, and I'm sure Coach will be talking about big summers here in a couple of weeks.
Second period, Karlsson goes along the boards, fights to keep the puck in the offensive zone, does so on the left side boards. He's got 2 Dallas Stars in between him and the slot. He parts through them, fights off a check, and gets 2 shot attempts away in quick succession. He showed a burst of speed there that I didn't expect to be able to get through those 2 Stars, the strength to fight them off as they're hacking them and hooking them from behind. More chops, more offensive hunger than I expected to see out of Linus Karlsson. That's what they were saying down on the farm. The guys are watching the farm say he goes to the tough areas. Now, again, he's not going to score 30 most likely, But could you see this guy contributing in a third line, probably fourth line more than likely, but maybe even a third line in a pinch kind of role?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that.
Canucks are mathematically eliminated if Minnesota beats San Jose tonight. And, of course, you're going to watch, keep an eye on Calgary and Anaheim as well. We'll see what the evening brings. We'll see if dawn breaks tomorrow with the Canucks playing another meaningful game.
Yeah, and as you said, not only this weekend, we'd appreciate it for tomorrow as well over at Greta. But just the longer you can stay, and that's what I said to you before as we were prepping for the show. I was like, one freaking win. If they had one more win, if they are 2 points further ahead right now, the path isn't wide. It's not like they're driving down a grand boulevard into the playoffs, but you can see a bunch of different scenarios that allowed them to get there. And in fact, Edmonton and St. Louis are still, if they have 2 more points, those 2 teams are still within reach, believe it or not. Far-fetched, but they would still be within reach. So 2 more points. It's a long season, and boy, would that have come in handy.
Mm-hmm.
The Honky Tonk Blonde Ale by Yellow Duck. New beer in collaboration with the Casey Clark Show there in the Okanagan. The Honky Tonk Blonde Ale, bright brew, light malt backbone with a refreshing crisp finish. So grab a can, turn up the volume on your favorite country tune. Let the Blonde Ale be the soundtrack to your next summer spring adventure.
Dakota Joshua is the Vancouver Canucks nominee for the Bill Masterton Trophy. Of course, Joshua overcame testicular cancer, diagnosed late in the summer, to return to play in November. The Masterton criteria, I mean, he's a pretty good candidate when you look at perseverance, sportsmanship, dedication to hockey. So we'll see if Dakota Joshua makes an appearance at the NHL Awards show. Are they doing a show? They usually do a show.
Have you heard it? I haven't heard an announcement on an award show. Seems a little late in the day.
The show has been
thrown together.
The show has been on thin ice here over the last few years, but we'll see. And this was brought to my attention as well yesterday by one of our followers. Shout out B. Leasy. But the Canucks have an altogether big caption headline. If you're, do we put it up there, Mike? Altogether, there it is. Altogether, we're better with you behind us. Poster advertising season ticket memberships for 25-26. As Daniel Wagner tweets, you'd think the Canucks would re-sign Brock Besser for next season before using him in an advertising campaign for season tickets. Is this another example of just one department not talking to another department? Is there a clue here with regards to Brock Besser and a contract extension that's coming?
I don't think so. I think that is one department forgetting contract situations and such. That's what I'm going to write that off to.
All right. And then we know everything is going tickety-boo in Abbotsford, winners of 13 games in a row, heading into the final homestand this weekend against the Calgary
Friday, Saturday
Wranglers. This from Ben Lipka, who does a terrific job covering the team for the Bugle out there in Abbey. So they've clinched home ice in round 1. Ben is guessing that the best of 3 could open on Thursday, April 24th at Abbey Center. He notes that Jerry Seinfeld is playing there on Friday.
The 25th, yeah.
So he's thinking Thursday and Saturday, which is the 26th, or Sunday, which is the 27th. He allows for the fact that it could start as soon as Monday, the 21st, but those early week games tend to be a more difficult draw. So if the Abbotsford Canucks have their druthers, they want to start it a little later on in the week, 24th, 26th, somewhere around there with home ice advantage. That is presuming they don't make up the gap and overcome Colorado for the number one seed in the Pacific Division, which comes with a bye.
Given the
They
gap,
wouldn't have to pay.
Given the gap, I think 4-1 is the minimum. Like they might need to win out in order to overcome the 3-point gap that's there right now. I mean, who's to put it past them? But the hot streak needs to continue. So maybe one loss the rest of the way to get that. But boy, that would be hugely beneficial to fast track to the second round.
All right, let's get to our menu today, brought to you by Greta. And you may have heard tomorrow we will be there for another Canucks Army viewing party. The doors open at 5. The game starts at 6. This is presented by Fountain Tire. Come watch the game, eat great food, play in the arcade, which is awesome at Greta. We're going to raise some money for Kids Sport Vancouver. Exciting giveaways, a 50-50 draw. And this week, we've made it a free event to come attend. If you have already bought tickets, we will sort refunds for you.
VIP still available.
VIP still available. That comes with the burger, the beer, and the game card at Greta. Must be 19 plus to attend. 50 West Cordova. We will see you there tomorrow at Greta. Let the games begin. Lawrence Gilman is going to join us, former Vancouver Canucks assistant general manager. He's going to say he really likes the way how this team is competing. We'll unpack Pius Suter with him. Matt Duchene as well, who was in uniform, scored for the Dallas Stars last night. And we ask him about the Washington model. The Capitals, the belle of the ball this year in the NHL, top team in the Eastern Conference, for making a number of moves over the offseason, which took that team from you almost wondered whether it was heading to a rebuild with Alex Ovechkin there. No, they're a contender again because of the work of their front office. We ask them how easy or difficult it would be for the Canucks to, because they're not rebuilding, replicate that model. Frank Corrado stops by, talk about a game for the ages with him, as well as Suter, Duchene, Tavares, some of the UFA centermen who were available this summer. That's all coming up on the program. Time now for our Bet365 Bets of the Day. This segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. My 3-game winning streak has come to a close. I had Nils Höglander to score last night. Alas, wasn't to be. What you got today?
I've still got that future for the Whitecaps against Pumas riding on tonight. But I'm going to turn to Macklin Celebrini. And
we need you now, Macklin.
Yeah. Canucks have never... You remember being a Canucks fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last time we saw you wearing a Canucks uniform was less than 12 months ago. Less than.
You're in the stands in the playoffs celebrating with your brother Aiden, who's in action tomorrow for Boston University against Penn State at the Frozen Four.
Macklin, you can do this, and you can make me think cha-ching, because the Sharks to beat the Wild tonight is plus 275. It's large, but it's worth it. Go Macklin.
I'm looking at the Masters, and because it's golf, you're going to get pretty good odds even with favorites. So I think Scotty Scheffler at plus 470 is worth a shout. I'm also going to go to that next tier and take Colin Morikawa, right now tied as the third choice at Bet365 at plus 1,500. And then I'm going to go a little further down the menu. I mean, because these are such huge payouts, you can get multiple guys in the field still come out ahead. Shane Lowry at plus 3,200. He's magic around the greens, and so is Russell Henley, who is one of the best putters in the world. He's playing great golf this year. He meets some of the criteria for players playing well heading into the Masters and what the last 12, 13, 18 champions have done. He's at plus 5,000. So I'm going to take a couple of exceptional sports short games there, as well as a couple of the favorites. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between. Amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Lawrence Gilman coming up next. Let's take care of some price from the historic Wall Center.
And if you have ever experienced road envy, then you should probably want to have that at you at some point. You know, be the guy that is attracting all the road envy. The BZ4X by Toyota will give you that feeling.
Come on, at me.
Spectacular car. Drives like a dream. And right now, with up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, never been a better time to get behind the wheel of maybe your first electric vehicle. All that time in the Hovland will make you very happy as well, by the way. 0.99% financing, APR for 36 months. Go check it out at your local Pacific Toyota dealer. ShopToyota.ca.
Lawrence Gilman is the former assistant general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, NHL executive with the Leafs, Jets, Coyotes. I was off my game when he joined us last week, so I will be better here today, Gilman.
As I said, everybody has an off day.
And that was quite an off one for me. What'd you make of the game last night?
Well, I only watched about the first period of it. I mean, I like the way the team has competed. You know, they've lost games this year, particularly late, you know, on that road trip in particular, that I thought they competed well. But there's a significant segment of their forward group that has been in AHL level, for half a dozen of them or four of them were AHL players. Like, that's a lot to ask for players to play at that high level and play mistake-free hockey. So overall, I think I'd be pleased with the level of competition of the team. I think they're showing heart and they're showing determination. That's good.
We were talking about this yesterday, Lawrence. Is that a commentary on how they feel about their coaches?
Probably, I would say so. I mean, they definitely do not look like a team that has quit on their coaching staff, and we've all seen that, many times, or quit on the coach, so to speak. But no, I think that, again, the effort level is good. If you're managing the team, and you're where you are at this point in the year, you're evaluating the players, you're also evaluating the staff, but you have to be happy with the fact that they are playing. It shows that, their give-a-care meter, as they call it, is high. And that means that there's connection between the players and the coaches.
I think we've asked you about Pius Suter before, but we are forced to ask about him again. And I think everybody's fairly clear. Like, Pius Suter's not winning any Rocket Richards or Art Ross trophies anytime soon. He is, I think, what we see this year at best. Like, I don't think there's more development of Pius Suter, and I don't mean that to drag him at all.
How dare you ceiling him?
I am putting a ceiling on him. And this has been a spectacular year for Pius Suter. The question is, and this goes for a lot of UFAs that are coming off of great years, but, do you force yourself to pay for that guy? Now, he's under your roof right now. You've got the first licks at him in free agency versus the rest of the league. Do you just have to, given there's a dearth of centers out there, do you just have to pay up to Pius Suter because you can't afford to go shopping for two more centers, never mind one more center?
Well, that's a good question. I have commented on Pius Suter a couple times during our times together, and obviously I'm a big fan. He's a Swiss Army knife player who has a great deal of utility, and he's what we would have referred to in our regime as a prototypical seventh forward, meaning a guy who slots in probably as your third line center, but yet has the skill and the capability to move up into the top six in various roles, whether that's down the middle or playing on the wing. When you add to that the utility of killing penalties and some power play capabilities, this is a valuable player. And it is not a great year for free agency. And if you have this player, it takes off a lot of pressure on that need to go out and find the quote unquote second center. And maybe Philip Hedl, when he comes back, is the beneficiary of the pressure below being taken off by having Pius Suter in the lineup. So yes, I would be looking to sign this player, and he's going to get paid. Like, does he have 24 goals at this point?
24 now.
Two-way center. Someone's going to pay him. And, it's always infinitely cheaper to re-sign your own players than it is to go replace them in the market.
So $3.5 million was what maybe at the beginning or middle part of the year we thought, okay, that'll probably get it done for Pius Suter. He's having a nice season. That number is antiquated now. Like, it's not going to be 3.5. Can you chomp off $5 million a season for Pius Suter? Like, you say he's going to get paid by the rest of the league. He's got to get paid by the Canucks too. So, like, is $5 million make your skin crawl, or do you just bite the bullet?
Well, it's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, you'd like to see him closer to 4 than 5, but you might not have that luxury.
Yeah.
And you have the benefit of having the player with you now, and he's had a good year, and it's been a good, opportunity for him. He's made the most of it. But there's also something to be said for staying in a good position. And, a good contract negotiator uses that to their advantage. And, I would be, if I were negotiating that deal, I'd be trying as hard as I could to get him as close to 4 as possible. But, the guy's performed, right? Like he's borne the risk of injury and of poor performance, and he's answered everything with flying colors. So he is going to get paid. And, would I gulp at 5? I don't know. I'd like to play it out first, but you might have to late June.
Swiss Army knife. Do you see what he did there?
Pun intended.
And the other thing is, he's a primary penalty killer here, fellas, on a team that has had an exceptional penalty kill unit, especially since Christmas.
And
so
a sneaky quick release scoring too. It's been a very impressive.
I mean,
year.
if he could skate, you would say
Oh my gosh,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's the skating sometimes hold him back, but he's a crafty, high IQ hockey player. I like him a lot.
Well, you can overcome your lack of foot speed with your brain.
Yeah.
And he clearly has done that this year. He's a shifty player. He's smart. He's greasy. He knows where to go, find open ice. And that's why he's been as productive as he has.
Mm-hmm. Let's stay at the center ice position, but talk about the opposition last night, Lawrence. Blake and I had a good discussion yesterday. Look, it's going to be very difficult to trade for a second-line center. It's going to be very difficult to file a successful offer sheet for a second-line center. So if you are on the UFA market, are you doing your shopping in Dallas, Texas, where Matt Duchene and Jamie Benn and Michael Granlund, and I realize the last two aren't pure centermen, but have played in the middle in the past. I would just, and all older players, I would just like to get your sense on what you think of those guys and how much they have left as they approach, or in some cases are in their mid-30s.
Well, Duchene is the best one to go get if you're going to rank the three of them. Ben is not a great skater and is really more of a winger than a center iceman. And Granlund, it's not necessarily the number of miles on the car; it's the type of miles. That have been, there's many off-road hard miles that have been driven. Are they, obviously they're capable players. They're anchoring one of the top teams in the Western Conference. And I'd say of all of them, as I said, Duchene is the most left in the tank. I just don't see him coming to Vancouver myself. I see him staying in Dallas. I think, Dallas is a very popular place among NHL players. I mean, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is it's another tax-free jurisdiction. But the quality of life in Dallas is incredibly high. Housing prices are reasonable, and it's a great organization. Tom Goularty and Jim Nill have really run a great organization. They have great young players there. Like you look at the life a kid like Wyatt Johnston is bringing to the older guys like Duchene and Ben and Granlund, and not to mention Thomas Harley. And they've, I don't see those. I see those players trying to stay in Dallas if they can.
We saw history made on Sunday. I'd like your 2 cents on the Alexander Ovechkin record and where he stands in the annals of NHL history. Is he a Mount Rushmore guy for you?
Well, he has to be. I mean, you don't have that kind of longevity in career and score nearly 900 goals without being considered among, a half a dozen of the best players in the game. And the interesting thing about him is his game has changed over the course of his career, and particularly as he's aged, because he was a freight train as a young player. I mean, he could go right through you. He could, hammer you into the boards. He doesn't do that anymore. He's more of a tactician in terms of setting up at his office, which is essentially the left face-off dot in the offensive zone. But he's a great player, and he still has gas left in his tank as well. I see him, he's over 40 goals at this age. It's not slowing down, and that's another team that's invigorated by good young players. Ryan Leonard, and you're going to have the young Andrew Crystal coming in, from Vancouver. So I don't see him going anywhere either. So he may finish with 1,000 goals by the time all is said and done.
Speaking of their turnaround, Lawrence, because a lot here in Vancouver, and I suppose I expect elsewhere in struggling NHL markets this season, have pointed to the Washington Capitals in terms of a quick retool, not having to rebuild, being able to bounce right back off the mat and be a contender. We know some of the trades they made, Kemper for Pierre-Luc Dubois and some others. Is it repeatable? How easy or difficult would it be, to follow the quote-unquote Washington model of retooling?
Well, you have to guess right on multiple, across the platform. I mean, which Washington did. The Chychrun deal turned out to be a pretty good deal for them as well. I mean, they also added Rasmus Sandin from the Leafs, which you're adding to reasonably young defensemen in their prime. It can be done. I mean, they're a testament to the fact that it can be done. But Pierre-Luc Dubois got traded a few times and it didn't work out. It just so happened that, as I think we've talked about before, every general manager thinks they can fix what's broken in a player and he'll come to our system and he'll be better. In Pierre-Luc Dubois' case, that was the fact. That definitely happened. Can the Canucks do it? If Washington can do it, I don't see why the Canucks can't. But you're going to have to make some bold moves and be creative and have a plan and go execute upon it.
Okay, we have to go backwards a little bit here. Errors and omissions on both of you. Just let it slide. Mount Rushmore has 4 faces.
I knew that when I said half a dozen.
Typical NHL hedge.
So totally, we have got to make some hard decisions on the 4 faces. And where I'm going with this is, are we kicking Gordy off the mountain? Is it time to kick Gordy off the mountain? He's the sort of the Father Christmas of hockey, but I think it's time to say goodbye to Gordy on Mount Rushmore.
Hold on. If we're going to kick Mr. Hockey off hockey's Mount Rushmore, are we doing it for Ovechkin, or is Sidney and his 3 Stanley Cup rings and his record 20th season at a point per game not a more...
So first of all, in my mind, there's 3 players that are non-negotiable, and that's Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe, and Bobby Orr.
Really? Okay.
So that's my opinion.
So for me, I have 3 non-negotiables.
Same.
They're Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, and Mario Lemieux.
Same here. Yeah.
So I was going to get to that. I don't see Ovechkin or Crosby eclipsing Mario Lemieux at this point. That's just my opinion. So that would be the 4 for me.
Okay.
Not that apropos of nothing, but
okay.
No, we need
to he's on
clarify.
your second Mount Rushmore. Like when Trump builds the second Mount Rushmore, because Trump is going to build a second Mount Rushmore for himself. They can be a part of that. Who was your 4th? I'm going Sidney. If I have to pick
I'm going to
be
be really mean. I'm kicking Howe off. It's Gretzky, Mario, Bobby Orr, and I'm going to put Sidney Crosby there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I hate it when we agree like that, Blake. What else here? Oh, Lawrence. So the Canucks, and look, great win last night, but it is still a longest of long shots. The Canucks could be the only Canadian team to miss the playoffs this year. You have worked in 3 Canadian front offices, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Toronto. How much do Canadian front office people gauge and look across the country at the other Canadian teams, how they're performing? And would it be an embarrassment to the Canucks?
Does that add to the failures?
Yes. Exactly. Is it the cherry on top embarrassment if the Canucks are the only Canadian team to miss the Stanley Cup playoffs?
In my experience, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, not making the playoffs is not making the playoffs. The fact that, the Calgary Flames might squeak in and get eliminated in the first round and place 4 more games than the Canucks do, I don't think it changes anything. You don't get fired for the other teams making the playoffs and your team doesn't. You get fired for not making the playoffs. Not that anyone's going to lose their job this year necessarily, but it doesn't really matter. People's memories are short. You can come back. Like the Ottawa Senators are riding high now. People forget they didn't make the playoffs for 7 or 8 years prior to this one. So I don't think your measuring stick is the other Canadian franchises.
Yeah. Okay. I'm happy for Travis Green, by the way. I know you know Travis and like Travis. I'm quite happy for Coach Green.
Now, the players always play. We've talked about that with regards to tanking before. We know they're going to play hard right till the very end. Maybe a little bit of apathy creeps in late in the season, but they're always in their mind trying. Does it matter to management? At this point, there's not a lot of draft capital to be gained here by playing good or bad. Like it's the mushy middle. It is what it is. But if the Canucks finish 2 points shy versus if they lose out here and finish where they're at right now, does it change the evaluation of management here, this junk time sort of points, whether it's pro or con?
It shouldn't. I think no one, listen, my experience with ownership and their assessment of management is they don't feel better about the fact that you missed the playoffs by 2 points or missed it by 8. With the caveat that if you're a team like Detroit was last year, where you're building, you're building something and you're in your building phase, and you miss it by 1 point, that's something that you can use. You can feel good about.
You're progressing. Yes.
But when you're in the boat where the Canucks are, not so much. Like there's no joy to be had by just missing by this much.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Was I better this week?
Yes, you were definitely smoother, more lucid.
Okay.
Definitely on your game again.
Okay, good to know. I yearn
Still missed the playoffs.
I yearn for your approval, Gilman. Thank you for this, Lawrence, and we'll catch up next week.
Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Sick Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center, and this next interview brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club. Spring preparations underway, opening day, very exciting. May 9th this year. Mark your calendars. Now accepting online bookings for the entirety of the 2025 season. No need to wait to get those times locked in, and if you do have a group of 12 or more, get on this quickly because the prime times are filling up fast. Book your tees for 2025. Get those times on hold. And tell them about your group at whistlergolf.com/groups. And follow on social at Whistler Golf.
And yet 10 centimeters of new snow on the hills last night, and they're expecting 25 today. I don't know where my mind is at here. Do I cheer on the snow still, or do I want it to melt so we get...
I've got to say, this has been an incredible winter for skiing and golf in this community.
Yeah, the freezing level's been at an appropriate height.
Because there have been enough clear, crisp, non-rain days where you were able to get out and play if you could tolerate a little bit of cold and if the course is open, and a lot of them did when we had that snap in January. And more than enough dumpings of snow up in Whistler, some iconic ski days there as well. And this is why you live here.
You know where there's some great skiing right now? Horseshoe Valley, Blue Mountain, Ontario, because they're getting fresh snow still in Toronto. Let's go there now to our weather correspondent, TSN's Frank Corrado. Have you been shoveling madly here in the month of April? Don't give me those side eyes. I know there's snow in Toronto.
Let me just tell you something, okay? It snowed here yesterday. It snowed in Montreal where I was yesterday. And not one single person wanted that snow. Everyone was pissed off. It was snowing sideways yesterday. And luckily it melted. But so last year we did, I think we did our last Habs game, Brian Mudryk and I, April 8th or 9th or 10th. And we walked to the rink in nothing but our suit, our backpack, sunny day, nice out. And we looked at each other and we said, we're golfing pretty soon. And then yesterday, same game, last one of the year for us, it's April 8th. We looked at each other and we said, we're not golfing soon. This sucks. Yeah.
Such is life. Out of those climbs.
Well, you made your bed, now lie in it. Okay.
Yes.
What'd you make of the cardiac Canucks last night?
What was that? Are we ever going to witness anything like that again? Where the game's over. You would have to think the game's over. And even when the first one of the three goes in, you're like, well, this game's still over. It's Dallas too. Yeah. And that's the thing. It wasn't Chicago, it wasn't Nashville, it wasn't San Jose. It was the Dallas Stars, who are known for being, a stout, responsible defensive team, can lock it down. That was wild. Like I just, it was crazy watching that back. I don't know how you guys felt, but when I was doing the game in Montreal, and then you're reading tweets and you're seeing things, and you're like, wait a second, what is going on over there? Mm-hmm. And then like I was in shock watching it all back. Couldn't believe that happened.
I had an eerie feeling that at 5-4 they might tie it. I had a friend text me this morning going, what the hell did I miss last night? How did that happen? And I said, really, winning faceoffs, gaining the zone, strong 6-on-5 puck movement, a little bit fluky, throwing one at the net on the final goal. But for the most part, it was kind of textbook 6-on-5 play, Frank.
Yeah. No, that's what it is. And like you don't have some players that you would normally like to have. And so Pius Suter continues his strong point production. That gets highlighted in that whole thing. And then, of course, you win the game in overtime. But you're right. Like, 6-on-5 play, what does it take? You win a face-off. You extend some offensive zone possession, and then you find ways to utilize the guy that isn't covered. And that's, it's crazy that it happened, though, at a point where the game isn't going to matter. Like, I think it's a crappy takeaway. Like, when it's all said and done, it's like that would have been so amazing if they were, hanging on to a spot or a point out or it was within reach. And it just, it doesn't have that same electricity, even though it was an unbelievable comeback.
Yeah, if it's 10
so you don't believe,
days
huh?
ago, if it's 10 days ago, it's a massive win. It does preserve the drama.
So you're not seeing the storyline here, Frank, of Macklin Celebrini doing his Vancouver Canucks, his hometown Canucks, a favor tonight and beating the Wild. The Canucks going into Denver and winning. The Canucks beating the Minnesota Wild on Saturday here on home ice. And then Minnesota feeling the crushing pressure, trying to integrate two somewhat hurt players in Kaprizov and Eriksson and choking under the pressure, much like Marcus Naslund Canucks teams of the past.
Oh,
Vancouver going to the playoffs. You're not seeing that storyline.
So you're telling
Frank.
me that all of that stuff is the 0.2% chance that Money Puck has the Canucks with making the playoffs. That is the point two. All those things happening. Yeah,
that is the route. That is the vision. I'm stunned you can't share that, actually.
Yeah. What we saw is the result of a bunch of young players in the lineup still trying to prove themselves. Like the AHL guys in this lineup are never say die. And I think it also helps that you've got role players on career years. Like, Sherwood doesn't want to stop scoring. Like, he probably doesn't want season to end. He's having a ball. Pius Suter's having the time of his life. All of these guys on season-long heaters and the AHL guys given all this plum experience, that's adding to the we're not quitting here, isn't it?
Yeah. There are guys that have things to play for sure. Like, not everyone falls into the same category. Like a guy like Pius Suter, his value continues to go up because of his consistent production, and it was fairly consistent before he even got to Vancouver. It has continued. I think of a guy like Mancini who scores last night. Like, these are good reps for him, regardless of what you think of the games. Like, like Matt pointed out, technically you are still in the fight. But I think anytime you're a young guy trying to establish yourself in the league, like you're fighting a fight for yourself. And ultimately, in the long run, you hope you help the team and stick around for a long time. Like Ratu, same situation. Like, you need to finish the season, putting everyone kind of on notice that, like, I'm ready to be here all the time. Because in training camp with Ratu, there were times when I see him and I'm like, that looks like an NHL player. But you get into the rigors of the season and it's like, you got to be consistent and you have to produce and like you have to bring something to the table that makes it your job and no one can take it from you at that given moment. So, everyone's starting fresh next year, but it's nice to establish these types of things. Everyone's playing for something. And Sherwood's a good one because, like, that's a guy who, when he was signed, like, flew under the radar of DeBrusk and maybe even Heinen, and the trees that they brought in on defense. But that's a guy that's been unbelievable for them. The hits, the goal production, the energy that he brings. Like, yeah, there's another guy that probably doesn't want the season to end because everything's going well for him. But it's a good year. Turn it into next year as well. And I think that's what some of these guys are playing for. Actually, I know that's what some of these guys are playing for.
Canucks can't get fooled into thinking Pius Suter's their second line center, right? I mean,
no.
Great season, but as they look, we've been talking about getting this center. They've got Hedl and Suter. They can't just think, maybe this works as long as Pettersson bounces back. That's not the plan, is it?
No, if Suter's the second line center, it's likely because they struck out on other stuff, whether it's like signing guys or making a trade, and they said, well, we can make it work. It's not ideal, and we're just going to have to go with this for now. He's best suited, I would think, to be like your third line center or a swing winger, right? Like, we need someone to play in the top six wing. Suter can do it, but we need him to be a third line center. He can do it. Like, I think in a perfect world, you don't have him on a fourth line. You have some bigger bodies, some physical guys, like a little more tailor made for that type of role. But like that's where I see him. If he's a second line center next year, and like it could be the case, there's not a lot of quality centermen out there. Like it's going to be hard. What's John Tavares going to do? What's Sam Bennett going to do? What's Pius Suter going to do? Like you go down the list, and it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that you think might go back to their teams, might command a ton of money. So it's going to be interesting to see how the center market plays out. But if he is the second line center, it's likely temporary, not a permanent solution.
You know Tavares at all, personally?
I skated with him a bit when I was playing. Like we used to do this thing called the Dungeon Cup back in Toronto, where it was like a once a week game, that like a 7-game series or something in the summer.
Yeah. Do you? I know he didn't wear their jammies growing up, but could you see him signing with the Canucks?
I think he really loves Toronto. Like I think he came home, and he has been.
Are the Leafs going to re-sign? Like, do you think there's a world?
I think there's a world where Toronto would re-sign him, especially if the price fits, what they would need. Listen, he's had an unbelievable year. Like no one has had more goals in the NHL since the Four Nations break than him, or he's in the top 3. It's something like that. Like he's aged quite well. And I know it's a big ticket he's on. It's like an $11 million ticket, but he probably has given you very close to that kind of production for the entirety of that contract. It hasn't aged, so he's got some game left. The thing with Toronto...
He's a point-per-game player this year.
Yeah, the thing with Tavares in Toronto is this. I don't think it's necessarily about, John Tavares in a vacuum being a Toronto Maple Leafs wanting to have him back. I think it's more of a question of, can this core win? And if they can't, how do we justify bringing everyone back, regardless of how well they play in the regular season? So Tavares falls into that category with Mitch Marner. And if you're not going to re-sign one of them, then the other one likely comes back. If you're re-signing both of them, it's because you had some playoff success and you're like, It finally started to work. So that's where, like, I think things still have to play out with Tavares in Toronto to ultimately know. But I mean, Canadian market is like Vancouver. Canadian market, passionate about hockey, excellent city to live in. Team gets treated really well. Like there's a lot of nice things about being a Canuck. It's just, I guess he's always played in New York or Toronto. All of a sudden now you're on the plane a lot longer than you used to be, a lot later in your career. Is that something that you want? And do you want to move your family to a 3-hour different time zone? I think those are factors.
At age 34, 35, 36, and of course taxes. And we know John's had his
well, taxes are more in Ontario. I think we're more. We're like 2% more.
Really?
Yeah, we're
we're
like 52 when it's all said and done. I think Quebec, it gets up to 54. I think you guys are slightly less in that tax bracket.
Yeah, and we know Mr. Tavares has had his disagreements with the CRA in the past.
Hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Well,
we won't air that part.
That's a very dangerous area of life to be cheating, let me tell you. We saw Duchesne last night. Boy, he can still skate. 79, still point per game player.
Still loves to score. Did you see that celebration?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do you think he's got left?
I think Matt Duchene's got game left. I think he falls into the, I want to go somewhere where I can win and not necessarily have to be the guy, but just be part of the machine. And I think that's why it works well for him in Dallas better than it has worked for him elsewhere, because he's not the centerpiece. He's not the go-to guy. But when you surround him with, the Wyatt Johnstons and the Robertsons and the Rope Hintzes of the world, when you surround him, Jamie Benn, like when you surround him with all those guys, all of a sudden his game rises up and you get the effect of him being like the go-to guy. But he doesn't have to be per se. But I think Matt Duchene still skates incredibly well, still shifty, dynamic, great hands, like can shoot the puck. He's got so many tools, and he's had them for such a long time. There's just always been this thing about Duchene where it's like wherever he goes, that team, is either was winning and then isn't winning or doesn't get over the hump. And now he's in a situation in Dallas where, like, I would imagine he wants to squash that and be like, I can play on a team that wins and I want to win. And he's taken much less money to stay in Dallas and be a part of that. So I think that's, with that being said, and seeing how that's played out, I think the number one thing he looks at is, well, I don't know how much longer is left on his buyout. I think he's still getting money from Nashville. So he probably looks at it and says, just give me a situation where I can win and I can get made whole with my old contract. Not looking to break the bank, but I want to be a winner. And he would have to evaluate if Vancouver gives him that chance.
That Stars forward set is ridiculous. Dadonov on the fourth line, Ben on the third line, and this is all with Sagan still coming back here. He's going to be back any day now. I mean, they have got 10 legit forwards on any given night.
Yeah, that's as deep of a roster as I can think of in the league. And watching Dallas play in the playoffs, they're a good team, but they need to have like that little bit of extra star power kind of help them out. And I think Ottinger falls into that, where like Ottinger has to put together, a series or multiple series like the one where he had against the Flames a few years back, where he was unbelievable in that Game 7. But yeah, like there's no doubt there's a ton of talent there, especially up front. I think there would be a little bit of concern on the back end, maybe on the right side. With Dumba, Ceci, and Lyubushkin, like none of those guys really scream. Well, they're not top pair guys. They could all pinch hit on a second pair, and are good third pair guys, like very good third pair guys. They're somewhere in the middle of like that 2-3. So that would be the area of concern for Dallas. But that's as deep of a roster as any. And we talked about Matt Duchene and being that guy that wants to win and needs to get over the hump of winning. I think Pete DeBoer is right there as well. Like, he's been a coach that consistently goes far in the playoffs, has been playing for a Stanley Cup and hasn't been able to win. So as much as, Duchene would like to be categorized as a champion, I think Pete DeBoer is right there as well to finally win one.
Yeah, I picked them last year. I sort of want to pick them again, but Heiskanen, like you've got to have him, and he's got to be going.
They're still saying he might be around for the first round.
No, I know.
Yeah, they're kind of dangling it a little bit, although it wasn't. I think at one point it was more definitive, like, oh yeah, we're going to have Heiskanen back.
That's
and then
right.
It turned into, well, we're hoping we're going to have Heiskanen back.
Time ticks on by quickly.
We haven't asked them the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question, have we, on Pius Suter? Because, and we should have when we were talking about Suter. But AFP Analytics had him on a 4x3.9 earlier in the season, Frank. And all he's done since then is masquerade as a first-line center. 11 points his last 8 games, up to 24 goals on the season. So we're building in the increase. $5 million on a 4 or 5 year deal. You doing that if you're the Canucks?
I probably am, just because I need a centerman. Like, I badly need centerman. So if I don't do it, what else is out there for me? And I think so. I'm trying to think. Like, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins makes just over $5 million. It's over $5 million, and he's on a long-term deal. But Nugent-Hopkins, I think, has 20 goals this year. Like, he's at 49 points. Actually, just pulled it up. He's at 20 goals. He's at 49 points. So you said Suter's at 24 goals. Like, I think if you look at it that way, you can justify it. And you'll always have the baked in, cap going up, more money available, percentage of the cap. But I think if you look at it like, we need a centerman, we have to pay this guy. We know it works with our head coach, which is something that should be important and valuable to the team. I would have no problem handing that over to him. The other thing, it's not that he just had a 1-year anomaly year. He's been right around, like, this is obviously his best, but he's been consistent. Like, he didn't jump up a crazy amount this year. So you know what you're getting with him.
No, he had 14 goals in 67 games last year, going back to his rookie season, 14 and 55. He's been on this pace before.
Right. Guys, I think you can argue that he's gotten more opportunity, and so he has built off his baseline numbers because of that opportunity.
And if this is the ceiling, Frank,
simple equation on him.
If he sinks back to 18 goals, 40 points at $5 million, in 2 years' time, that for your third-line center, that's not overpaying.
I think $5 million for a third-line center is not an outrageous ask.
Especially when he's a primary ineffective penalty killer, which he has been all season long.
And can be on your PP2 even, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have no, like, centermen are one of those positions where if I'm getting a quality centerman, and define quality, someone that brings something to the table, right? Like you talked about penalty killing, like ability to score goals, trustworthy guy. So, he's bringing quality to the table. I think I'm okay with giving a centerman a little extra money. I'm okay with giving certain defensemen a little more money because worst case scenario, I can still squeeze 22, 25 minutes out of him and get, like the Darnell Nurse one always comes up, right? Like $9 million. Okay, worst case scenario, Darnell Nurse gives you 23 minutes. And, as long as he doesn't cough it up, you're like, I can kind of justify, like, you can hide the money better when it's positions like that. I probably don't want to overpay for a third-line winger, though, fourth-line winger, fourth-line center.
But that's not this guy. And look, I wish he skated better. I wish he won more face-offs. But you can almost say he's a all-situations light player because he can play center, he can play the wing, he kills penalties. As Blake says, he's a power play 2 guy. You can use him protecting a lead late. So, that... You got to look beyond the numbers and beyond the career season, I think, when you're evaluating in this marketplace.
I got to pull
not to have
something
the
up.
fifth year. But.
I got to pull something up. I want to see the face-off percentage, 42.2.
It's terrible. It's
okay,
terrible.
So I was just about to make the argument that, like, I think face-off percentage is an overrated stat.
Probably.
And I do think it is because, like, the difference between 46 to like 49 is, what is that, like 2 face-offs in a game? I don't know. That could be like a neutral zone draw and some other draw. I think when it comes to face-offs, if you win the important one at the right time, like, that's really what matters most. But at 42, I can't protect him. 42, I need that to be like 46, 45.
It has been in the
up.
past.
Well, he was 49 last year. 49 last year.
He's never been a particularly good face-off guy, but he's passable.
He's been palatable before.
And frankly, I'd like to see the breakdown on his strong side, what he looks like, because, if you do have the appropriate handedness at center, then you can shelter some of that. Frank, marvelous stuff. Appreciate this. Look forward to next week already.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
If you are struggling with things like managing stress, anxiety, relationships, or divorce, reach out to the counselors at Advanced Counseling. Book your free initial consultation today at advancedcounseling.ca.
Sekerson Price from the historic Wall Center, where you turn game night into a game weekend. Book your stay here at the Wall. Enjoy an exclusive Sekerson Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Ask for us by name. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Blake Price.
Yeah. Perfection.
Mm-hmm. Well, first tell them about bogey juice, because let's talk about our, invariably when we make a mistake on the golf course.
You're gonna postpone my perfection?
I'm going to postpone your perfection for a second here.
Well,
in fact, I would cancel your perfection if I could, but hey, it's sponsored.
Perfection in a glass is bogey juice. If you're not a golfer, generally what happens or has happened in the past, generally somebody's got a liquor of some sort in their bag. Somebody gets a birdie.
Take a shot.
Yeah.
It's just those birdies are so elusive.
Not a lot of birdies per day. You want to go out and have some fun with your buddies? You get bogey juice.
Yep.
Available in small format or in a big bottle, but the small format, great for the golf bag. And, of course, the bogeys happen a little more regularly. This is an apple and ginger blend with top shelf vodka infused into it. You can get yours at bogeyjuice.com and use the promo code SP15 to get 15% off the juice itself and the merch that goes alongside it. You'll see BJ hats and hoodies start to proliferate on the golf course.
Gonna wear mine today, actually.
It makes golfing a lot more fun.
Right. Okay, on to perfection. Blake went a perfect 5-0 with his Safeway My NHL picks this week. Enough said, moving right along.
It is hard to be this good. It really is. The responsibility that I feel to society to keep up this level, I promise to never let. I might run for office based on my performance with my Safeway NHL picks. 5-0 for the first time this season. The heater continues. And I even got my Vancouver Canucks pick right in the group of 5 as well.
You might see the phrase on social media, are we tired of winning yet? Now, it's in a different context, but in this one, I can say yes. As a matter of fact, we're tired of hearing about the winning at the very least.
I've unlocked new Scene Plus points offers. I think I'm going to go get some Purex bathroom tissue because I'll get 300 points if I go and buy that right now. You won't, but I
Bought
will.
some yesterday, actually, at Safeway.
You didn't get 300 plus Scene Plus points because of it. I am going to, though. Na boo boo.
Caps at Pumas tonight, the second leg of CONCACAF Champions League. Of course, it was a 1-1 draw here at BC Place last week, so the Caps need either an away draw or a beyond 0-0, of course, or a victory. Who's out? Who's in?
I mean, they don't have a whole lot of options. Like, this is the downside of all these injuries. It's finally coming to, and this is the downside.
It's the downside of Wednesday, Saturday every week, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, be careful what you wish for. Winning the Champions Cup means you play more games, you get more tired, you get more injured. In a vacuum, I give them all sorts of chances to go down there and get the result, given the scenarios and who's out, and the fact that the guys that are in there, the 11 that will start today, will be a very good 11, but they're going to be exhausted, most of them, from having just played. So I just don't think the depth. I could see something like Brian White sitting to start and giving Daniel Rios a chance to start the game and then bring in Brian White later. But there's not a lot of other sort of options for the Caps right now. So, hey, if they pull this off, power to them because they're behind the 8 ball. But they played very well last time out here at home versus Pumas. We'll see. I'm not going to write them off.
Masters begins tomorrow. Here's the Canadian contingent. Mike Weir, Green Jacket winner, will play with Cameron Young. He's out pretty early. Taylor Pendrith in his first Masters playing with former one-time champion Fred Couples. That should be
good for
interesting.
Him.
Corey Connors playing with Brian Harmon, fresh off his victory in San Antonio. And Nick Taylor also playing with a Green Jacket winner in Dustin Johnson. Jays put up another 6th spot at Fenway. They've won the first 2 there. Bo Bichette, 3 hits. He's batting .314. Lest we forget, he's twice led the American League in hits. And how about this Easton Lucas story? The Jays starter last night. He had started all of 13 games in his professional career. 9 of them were back in rookie ball in 2019. He's now 2-0 in place of Max Scherzer. He had 8 strikeouts, just 3 hits allowed, sporting a perfect 0.00 ERA. It's quite a story. Hope he can keep it up. The M's lose 2-1 to Houston. They managed just 5 hits and 40 at-bats over 12 innings. There was an incident on the big screen.
Bunch of fans dressed up with Go Mariners on their front of their shirts. They got up onto the big screen, which was clearly their goal. The director puts them up on the big screen. It's a big 16:9 screen in the outfield there at T-Mobile. they immediately turn around when they see that they're on the big screen and it says not Go Mariners on their backs. It says sell the team.
Wow.
To which point everybody's pointed out that the director then started trying to get away from them on the screen, and like the scenes were cutting like every 2 seconds. It's like they were mashing the board just trying to get away from the fans. It's not looking good. Just seeing the early hot takes on ESPN.com's MLB page. The M's will finish right where they are right now, in last place.
Well, it's going to be harder because Victor Robles, who had been such a good story for the M's last year, he made that sensational catch in San Francisco over the weekend where he crashed into the netting in right field. People are saying it's amongst the best catches they have ever seen in the history of that ballpark. Problem is he injured his shoulder. He's out 12 weeks for a Mariners offense that needs every bat that they can muster. Seas drop the opener of a 6-game set in Spokane. They'll try again tonight. Top pitching prospect Fernando Perez takes the bump for Vancouver. And, of course, the big home opener Tuesday against Eugene, 7:05 at the Nat. Get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Shout out to the BC Lions. They donated $517,000 this year to amateur football based on their fundraising efforts, 50-50 draws. And report from Sport Tourism Canada said the Grey Cup here in Vancouver generated $122 million in economic impact. It is the highest economic impact for a Grey Cup in more than 10 years. Single day sporting event in 2024. The game itself, 45.6 million of visitor spending, and the 6-day festival, which drew more than 547,000 people, with 53,000 plus coming from out of town. The Grey Cup continues to be a cash cow for the city that gets to host it.
I can't remember a bigger buzz for Grey Cup here.
Yep. I think you go back to the 80s for sure. But, but of the last...
Of the modern Grey Cups
here? So
here?
that's my fourth in Vancouver. I believe that's my fourth in Vancouver going back to 05. Yeah, 05. And then that was by far the best.
Yeah.
By far the best. The festival, we talked about it. The festival ground worked like clockwork. They had ample volunteers. It was well plotted.
Yeah.
People movement was great. The activities for both adults, young people, kids was all outstanding. No, they hit it. Shout out Amar Doman, Dwayne Vanneau, and the Grey Cup organizing committee. They hit it out of the park last November. Surrey Mitsubishi poll question results from Tuesday. We asked you which Dallas Stars free agents should the Canucks pursue this summer. The options were Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, Michael Granlund. The winner is
Matt Duchene.
Correct. Percentage?
48.
Right on the number, Blake.
Whoa!
27% for Victoria's Benn, 25% for Granlund. The comments were replete with why no none of the above option. So we'll take the E&O on that early. Trevor says, see if Granlund's positive. Van Fennuck, Jamie Benn would provide desperately needed leadership, skill, size, and toughness. Also a local guy, wouldn't want to break the bank as they have bigger fish to fry. Ask the Sedins about his leadership, but I hear you. Josh, I do Ben on a 3-year deal, veteran presence, and a player with some grit would be good.
I wouldn't play him down the middle. A 2-year deal as a veteran winger, if he gives a huge hometown discount, I'm not against it. Not against it.
Errors and Omissions brought to you by Ben Moss, proudly Canadian-owned, operated, a history dating back more than 100 years, 5 locations in British Columbia, including Victoria, Chilliwack, Abbotsford, Willowbrook, and Langley, Coquitlam Center. They are committed to customer satisfaction. Huge selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. They got mined diamonds with payment plans to suit your needs. For more info, check out benmoss.com, because love is timeless. Okay, the none of the above on the poll.
Yeah. I said Rogers Place. Oh, sorry, I said Rexall. I meant Rogers Place. Yerke, the crypt keeper.
Oh, Yerke's got me
pointing
on one
that
here
out.
A second. Just clearing it up on offer sheets. So a player becomes offer sheet eligible after they are qualified and a day after the NHL draft. And then the team with the player who is offer sheeted has 7 days to match. So it does back you up through July 1st into free agency. It doesn't necessarily have to be a late summer thing like we've seen in the past. It could be wrapped up and tidied by like July 3rd, July 4th sort of thing, but you still miss that window on the 1st.
Right.
If that's the track you're hoping the Canucks take to finish the second line center, to fill the second line center spot. And then Yerke got on me for saying, I no longer say on the island for the Islanders because they're not on the island. The new arena in Elmont, New York is
on
right
an island?
It is right on the dividing line between Queens and Long Island, but it is on the eastern Long Island side. There's a freeway that runs down the border, and yes, I will take the L. The Islanders are still on the island.
They are,
technically, although they're a lot closer to the city than they used to be in Nassau, or where the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum is. I still think they're actually in Nassau County.
Ooh, they are, yeah.
But then Yerke gets pedantic with me, as Yuri is wont to do, and he goes, Matt, even when they were playing in Brooklyn, or even if they were playing in Queens, you could still say they were playing on the island.
It is still on the
and
island.
It is true. The boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens and Long Island and Manhattan, for that matter,
different island
are all islands.
But Brooklyn and Queens are on Long Island. They are on the same island.
They're attached to,
But they're on the same island. Manhattan's its own island.
Yes, correct.
But this is the same island.
So it got me thinking, what constitutes an island?
I think it's
the Americas. Could you argue it's an island? It's surrounded by water. And so I got busy on Google.
Yeah.
What's an island? Any area of land smaller than a continent and entirely surrounded by water.
Smaller than a continent. Okay.
Also, if at high tide your landmass is submerged, you are not an island. So then I thought to myself, well, wait a second. If continent is the dividing line, what's Australia?
They're not an island. It's a continent.
Most geographers do not consider Australia an island. They consider Australia a continent.
Mm-hmm. Mind blown. Tasmania, island. New Zealand, island. Australia, not an island.
I thought the continent, though, was Oceania.
Oh, that's the sports conference.
Australia. Google. Continent in Oceania.
Continent. In the Oceania is the region.
Country in Oceania.
Country in Oceania.
Yeah. Mainland of the Australian continent. Anyways, I learned something, and this is why you tune in to Sekeres and Price.
Easy. Right till the end. That's why you got to tune in right to the end. Mm-hmm. Tell your friends.
Thanks, everybody, for joining, connecting with the program. Appreciate that. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Blue Sky. We're live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. Of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about, and keep it local. And Yerke, I hope you learned something.